Hello everybody and welcome to Almost Solitaire. Today I will be playing a game called New York 1776, published by Worthington Publishing. I think it was published, some 10 years ago perhaps from now, meaning like 2014 or something like that. So as the name suggests, we are in the war between the British and the Americans, the Revolutionary War of North America, or the colonies of the United States to be. And yeah, this is taking part after the British have been expelled from Boston in 1775, and Washington was, I think, expecting, George Washington, that the British would arrive here against New York, which was a important city, and he kind of thought that he would have a chance to defend it against the British if he got the time to prepare some defenses, and he had some trust, I guess, in his militia after the performance up in Boston, and also, of course, making the life hard also for the British in the Lexington and Concord campaign, if you want. But also, managing to really get the British out of Boston was a big achievement. So I guess he had a good trust in his folks, and also he thought that also with a few good leaders he could defend the New York area, New York City and the area around it. So the map here we are looking at is, we have Long Island here. Here we have New York Island with New York City, when you see this big cluster of blue blocks. Here's what is New York proper, and I think we are almost seeing Connecticut up here. We have White Plains over here, by the way. And here we have New Jersey running along the other side of the Hudson River. And down here we have Staten Island as well. So that's the main kind of land areas we have here. And we have some sea areas. They are divided in zones, from zone A to, I think it's F, I believe, where the British can move their bigger ships, which are depicted by these blocks here. Otherwise, this is a kind of I think a pretty traditional block game. You have the strength points, and you rotate the blocks when they take losses. They battle with also the strength point is depicting how many dice they will get in battle and so forth. So I think this is pretty standard. I haven't played that many block games, but those I have played have kind of similar, these types of kind of maybe what Columbia games started off back in the days. But it's a point-to-point system. We have these villages and towns where you can move through roads. So you're never out in the terrain here. Really, you're only moving via roads. And speaking of all these rules and all that, I will not do that much of a rule introduction for this game. I probably will explain a few rules as we go instead. I will more do this replay as maybe more as a after action report. I'm probably gonna turn off the camera, do some moves, and then get back to you explaining what has happened. And maybe I believe that when there's a more important battle, I will take you through the battle. The game also has its own battle board here, where you do the battles. I'm gonna look at that when that happens. But for the setup here, we have the instructions said that the Americans, they need to have half their forces, meaning blocks, in New York City, so which is here. You can see that big city over there, on the southern edge of New York Island. And the other rule is that Washington himself needs to be here. So he's here. There are two more leader blocks. We have Green over here, and we have Lee over here. What's his name? Henry Lee? I'm not sure. So half of the blocks are here. The other ones you can set up anywhere except Staten Island. So what I have done is to put Green on a fortified position here. As you can see, Brooklyn, the Brooklyn Heights here, where we had historically we had this big battle here when the British advanced head on, and they also had I think it was Cornwallis who did a flanking maneuver through, I think this pass is called Jamaica Pass. So they went via Flatbush and over to Bedford, and then hit the Americans in the flank, and eventually they routed. But, well, if you speak about history again, they were pretty much trapped here then because the British were pressuring. But I think when the evening came, the British withdrew and waited for the next day, to continue the attack. And there was more or less of a miracle happening because the Washington here and his army managed to sneak away during the night, keeping campfires and all that on the fortifications, and made the British thinking that they were still there waiting for the next day's battle. But as the new day dawned, the Americans were just gone. And and I think also, in more general terms, there has been some discussions, I believe, about General Howe, who is this block here, who is the head of the British forces here. We also have, by the way, Admiral Howe, which is his brother. So there's been some discussion why he didn't move more aggressively. He could have trapped Washington a few times in these battles, and he could have moved more swiftly to, pretty much try to close in the American forces and made them just surrender. But he didn't for some reason, and I think one explanation that I heard was that he really didn't want to destroy the American army, even though that was the goal of the British in this campaign of the New York. They wanted to give them that decisive blow just to quell the rebellion by one big battle. But I guess Howe had some sympathy for the Americans, and maybe he also thought that if he would do that, he would just anger the Americans even more, and getting even more uprising by that. So he wanted maybe to tread carefully and hopefully, or he hoped that the Americans would come to the senses and just lay down their arms. I think I heard something about that, and as a reason why he didn't really press on harder than he did historically. Anyway, so that's the setup. And I also, by the way, I can also mention that along with Green, sorry about that, I have placed all the New York and Connecticut militia. So we only have militia over here in Brooklyn Heights. Here we have all the regulars, and we have all the artillery, these 3 blocks of artillery here. And there's also, I think, 2 blocks of Massachusetts militia over here. But I have all the New Yorkers and the Connecticut militia over here. The reason being also, that's a rule thing that happens, that when the British, if and when the British take New York City, the New York militia starts to run away pretty much. They desert the lines and the army and disappears. So you're starting to remove blocks after that happens. Same with Connecticut militia. As soon as the British are taking control of White Plains, they start to desert. So I wanted them to be in the first line and taking pretty much the first hits, because they are more brittle, you could say. The Massachusetts and Pennsylvania militia are not that. They will not disappear. They will fight. So that's why I put them here. That where I expect we will see the first big battle. So over here I have two leaders. It's Washington and Lee. Lee, by the way, is I think British, but he went over to the American side, right? So he, my plan is to move Washington. If the British are coming up on Long Island, as in history, if they're gonna debark here and start marching towards the fortification here, I will move over Washington with some more troops to prepare really hot defense there. I also wanted some dudes to be over here in case the British, because they can land on Constable Point here and then they could march up along New Jersey shore instead. So I wanted to have something here to stop them, and I also will be ready to sail over, or not, maybe row over with Henry Lee and some troops to help defend here. So I wanted these guys to be here ready to, with a leader move, maybe both directions if needed, to boost the defenses there. That's basically it. There are some restrictions in how you can go over the water here. I mean, the British could move in some ships here, and then suddenly the Americans cannot cross that river during or within that water zone. But for the British to be able to move here, they need to control at least one of these two fortifications. Same goes over here. For them to move up to zone D here, if you can see that, you need to have New York City or the Brooklyn Heights in your hand. Then you can move the ships here. So the British are pretty much locked in here with the ships. There is an optional rule where you can sail around the Long Island and come to the Long Island Sound here. And I will play with all the optional rules that we have. So if you know the rules, I might do that, but probably not in the beginning. So all in all, I'm preparing for a stubborn defense. I'm gonna at least battle one round of combat here. If it goes well, I might continue if the British get blooded by assaulting the militia lines here. And I will for sure bring over some artillery here and some regulars to boost the lines. That's for sure. In case there's a big British army coming up here. And here instead, I'm just having a holding force with the Pennsylvanians and one Massachusetts guy here to stop any quick advance of the British and ready to move over Henry Lee. So for the British plans then, first of all, for the setup, they will all be in Staten Island. I have placed them here just now, just to, give them some battle groups. So here's the battle groups I have thought. They also have three leaders, by the way. They have Howe, and they have Clinton, and they have a German called Heister. So, by the way, these darker, is it green or blue, let's say gray, they are Germans. So I have placed one brigade of Germans in Howe's and Clinton's group, and in Heister's group I have two brigades of Hessians, and I have also the second brigade of Cornwallis here, along with the second Royal Artillery. I don't know what, I mean, it's certainly more than a battery here, but I don't know what the size would be of those artillery blocks really. So the thought is that when looking at the American setup, the British will send Heister up here to Constable Point and advance toward this fortification, and to, try to lure over some troops from the Americans over here, so they won't be able to send everyone over here. That's the main plan. So I will have three brigades and a battery here. I call it battery. Together with Heister, and they will attack these fortifications. Unless they boost it too much, then I might leave it, but I probably will attack. If you at least get 1-to-1 odds or something, I will for sure attack. Because this is important. If you can take Paulus Hook and the fortification there, we can start moving the ships up the Hudson. And here I will land 2 groups of units into Long Island. And as you can see, they have the similar layout. They will have, actually I could put it like this. We have 5 brigades of British regulars and 1 Hessian, and then this would be strength 3. Both have a block of artillery with them. So that's the plan. So what we would do first, as you can see, I have this is the game map that came with my game. It's a paper map. So I also later I bought these more sturdy map, and I'm choosing the old one just for the charts or the turn tracks and all that, because it's over there, so it will be easier for me to handle here. So what we'll start with is to, I think I should get the rule book so you can check the sequence of play here. But I believe we should roll for action points first of all. Here the sequence of play. So after determining, okay, so we're going to determine the action points. So the British always start with 2, and then we roll. If we roll odd, we get 1 more. If we get an even, we get 2 more. The Americans always start with 1 action point. And the same for them for adding additional points. It's a roll that decides that. And the side who has lesser number of action points starts the game. If it's even, the British starts, not the game, but the turn. Also, the ships, there were some bad weather during this campaign, so the ships couldn't really engage everywhere they wanted. And that was one of the reasons why the Americans could get over back to New York City from Brooklyn Heights after the battle, because I think it was a terrible thick mist the next morning and night. So they could, you know, in the cover of the mist, they could bring over the troops over this, what is it called here? East River. Okay, East River. Oh, that makes sense. So they went over the East River in a thick mist, if I remember correctly. I read a nice book about this maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and that's where I recall these happenings. Anyway, let's start with checking the action points, and the blue is for the Americans, of course, and the red is the British die. Okay, so the red is an even, meaning the British will get 2 action points. The blue is an odd, so they will only get 1 more. And the ships could move because we rolled even with the British. So that's it. During this first turn, I will film the whole turn, and then I think I will do some breaks and do my movements, and then get back and explain what has happened. Okay, but since the Americans had the lowest amount of action points, they need to go first. And the question is, what do I want to do? Because we don't know where the British will land yet. Of course, in my head, I know it, but I think anyway, it makes sense to start moving over with some more troops over to Long Island with Washington. That's what I have been planning all the time, but I will leave a force here with Lee to be ready to, you know, react to any landings on New Jersey side. So let's see now. We have 10 units of militia over there, and we need some more boost. So I'm gonna take 2 artillery with me. By the way, these guys have 2 numbers. So the first number is the number of troops he can bring with him for 1 action point, you could say. So if you activate Washington, he can bring 9 troops, and he has a movement allowance of 2. So he can move the whole army 2 spots on this map. So as you can see, for instance, Lee has only 1 in movement. So let's see, what do I want to have there? I think I want some regulars. I'm gonna take 3 regulars. Is that enough? Let's take 6. Let's see now. We can take 9 units. So we have, I'm gonna take 8 with me. And I'll leave Lee with an artillery and 2 militia and 1 regular brigade, the McDougall Brigade in New York City. So as long as there's no British ships over here, I can move across the water if there's an anchor symbol on both sides, and there is, as you can see here and here. So however, even though Washington has 2 in movement, he can only move 1 if he cross, or more correctly, he needs to stop after moving through a waterway. So he's gonna move to Brooklyn Heights with the regulars and the artillery, and that would be 1 action point. So I'm just gonna stack them all together. It's a big chunk of units here now. Let's place the ships as well. One other thing is that each British ship can either move, you can move 1 unit using the ship to move from on a port to port location, or you can move, or you can add a leader and all his units that he attach with 1 ship. So that's the rule. So I can move all the 3 British leaders if I have the 3 ships here through New York Harbor. Okay, so that was the first American action point. I still have 1, but I'm not. Hold on. Let's say that the British comes here, and then if the British starts next time, and if they bring a leader that can move 2, they can attack before Lee reach here. So I might need to, yeah, I think I need to activate Lee then as well. So that would be the last point. We need to prepare for the defense of Paulus Hook. I don't care to be I don't need to leave anything here really at all, because the British cannot reach these anyway. They need to go via these forts to get the ships there. Unless they come from the other side, of course, but we have plenty of time to react against that. I think it takes some time for the British to sail around. I don't remember the turns, but or maybe it was actually 3 action points or something like that. It's expensive in some way to go around the Long Island with the ships anyway. So I'm gonna take Henry Lee, and should I take all of them pretty much? I think I'll do that. So I'll move everybody over here to Paulus Hook. So we have 2 armies of the Americans now. We also have some artillery here. Okay, and that was it. So then we go to the British. They have 4 action points. They could move the ships. I will not do the Long Island, sailing around the Long Island at least. I want to activate my troops, but I wonder now about my battle groups, because now we have, let's see, 20 blocks worth of units over in Brooklyn Heights. And if we would attack with Clinton and Howe, we would have 10, 12, 14, 16 units against 20. But we have so much better quality here than these guys. You will also see when we start battle and there are some militia involved, there's a big risk that they just run really much. So, but also we're gonna check. I mean, Heister, he has now 4 units, and there's 8 units, so he would pretty much attack 1 against, or he has 5 if you count him as well. 5 against 8. That's not. That could be tough. On the other hand, if it's mostly militia over there, I know we have regulars and artillery. As the British player, I wouldn't know that, but you know, they can be tough. But if we would assume that it's mostly militia anyway, I still could get a good chance, especially since I have 2 Hessians. The thing is that Hessians are especially effective against militia in this game. And I will explain why when we got to the battle. So, you know what? Of course, we could... hold on. Yeah, I'm just thinking, is there any other way we can threaten them, the Americans, other than getting headlong attacks? I mean, pretty much not. We need to... Otherwise, I need to send the ships around and then start, marching through Long Island and then start to, maybe go against White Plains or something. But I think I need to battle here. So I'm going to go with my original plan anyway. Okay, so for 1 point, I will activate Heister, and he takes his assigned troops with him, and he will sail over to Constable Point using one of the ships. Howe will take his battle group. Using the second ship and a second action point, and sail over to what's called Denise's Ferry. Okay. Now Howe can only move 1 per turn, so he would need 2 turns to reach Brooklyn. While Clinton, he has a movement of 2. He can take 9 units with him. I mean, we're up for an epic battle already from the start, if the British want to attack. Let's just bring them over to the same place. That's it. So I have now moved the 3rd British one, so I still have 1 action point. I could move the 1 ship if I want, but I won't do that. So that was pretty much the first turn, and we have seen the British now, using the, I don't know what 1 turn would indicate here, but if I'm not too far out in time, the British arrived here in late summer, maybe August or something, and the campaign went, I think, all the way to November somewhere, when we had the Battle of the White Plains. So yeah, so I mean, we have at least 2 months, so yeah, a few days per turn, I would say. So the British are using the first days here to just get over this big mass of troops, the regulars, over to Long Island from Staten Island, and also sending over, using 1/3 of the fleet to getting over Heister with 3 brigades and some artillery here to threaten this one. So this is going to be interesting. So the thing is, Heister is a guy who moves 2, so he could already next turn attack if he want. So I will now, yeah, let's say I will end this this one here and do some movement and get back to you soon where we are with the after turn 2. So we're gonna start turn 2. Okay, so I have done the movement for part 2. Again, the British, they rolled actually a 6 and the Americans a 1. So the British had more action points, meaning the Americans started this turn, but they didn't do anything. They're just waiting for the British to approach. These guys, both Clinton and Howe, have moved their armies one space. There's no stacking limit here, so you can bring all your army here. So we have the whole British army over at Yellowhook, looking at attacking Brooklyn Heights here. I could have moved Clinton, like, you know, via Utrecht and Flatbush over here, and they could also attack next time. But leaving Howe with only 8 here could provoke an attack from the Americans and, you know, smash this British corps really quick. So I didn't want to do that. So that's why I moved them in a big group, don't risking any surprise attacks from the Americans. But Heister, he wanted to do a probe attack here against Paulus Hook. So we actually have a battle already in turn 2. So I will show you how that works. I will do this a bit of a semi-randomly. So I'm going to do the setup on the battle board, and then we start the battle rounds. Okay, so here's the setup for the battle. As I said, I have used quite a lot of you know, being randomizing where the troops end up, but you need to have, of course, troops in all, you know, in your left, center, and right. And the Americans, or actually defenders, always set up first. So here's what they have done. On their right hand flank, they have Lee himself with the battery of Henry Knox, the first battery or first artillery here, and then we have some Pennsylvania militia, weak one, kind of defending the leader and artillery there. But otherwise pretty strong, because artillery fight really good. In the center they have a Pennsylvania and a Massachusetts militia. The Massachusetts one is a bit stronger. And on their left they have the regular brigade, McDougall, and also 2 Massachusetts militia brigades. So this is, their left is pretty strong. The weakest part is really this one, I would say, because these guys can run away pretty quick, but here we also have some artillery, so maybe not that quick of a desertion here from the battle. Now, Heister has more of a problem. He doesn't have that many blocks as the Americans. So what he did was to put 2 strong brigades on his left, the Stern and Cornwallis 2, who will try to charge the battery here. So this is a strong one. The center, they just put their artillery there to hold off this militia, hoping this guy will manage to keep them at bay here, while his flanks does the work. But here we have Heister himself is leading Losberg's brigade against the American left, which is surprisingly strong. So this could be a bit tough for the Hessians to attack. So let's see how this goes. I mean, this is kind of a probe attack for Heister. So if he sees that he takes too much losses when charging Paulus Hook, he probably will already retreat after the first round of battle. One thing to remember is when you attack a fortified position, during the first round of combat you will roll 1 less die for each unit as the attacker. And the strength number here is the number of dice you will roll. Artillery, though, will fire with their full strength. And so will leaders, I believe. It's only infantry. Let me check that real quick in the rulebook. attacking fortified locations. Okay, leader units also reduce. So Heister, leaders roll 1 die in battle. So first round Heister will not roll, but I will only roll with the Losberg Brigade here. So you hit with a 6. That's a hit. So one of the enemies on your opposing side here will take 1 hit. If you roll a 1 with any unit except the Hessians, 1 militia needs to retreat from that battle, and they will not come back during this battle at all. If a Hessian rolls 1 or 2, here's a 2, then they also will run. So Hessians have a better chance to get the enemy militia running. Okay, so the defenders roll first, and I will just start from my left to right, pretty much. So let's see what we have here. We have, let's roll for Lee, and by the way, artillery hit with 5 and 6, not only 6. All the other units hit with a 6, artillery with a 5 or 6. So therefore I will roll these 2 units first, because they hit on a 6. So they will get 3 dice, 1 for Lee and 2 for the Pennsylvania militia there. Hoping for some 6s then. We got none. So then we're going to roll 3 more dice. That's the artillery firing. So now we hit with 5 and 6. Bad luck for the American defenders there. No hits at all. Okay, that was bad. Let's go to the center section. We have 5 dice there, but I only have 4. So let's roll them 1 by 1. So the Pennsylvanians will roll first. That's 2 dice. 6 hits. No hits there. And the Massachusetts militia, let's see if their volley can hurt this artillery. They couldn't. Bad rolls again by the Americans. This doesn't look good. So maybe Heister's a bit, maybe, I don't know. It looks a bit bad, attacking a fortification that has more blocks than you have as attacker. But maybe this will be a good attack anyway. But let's see now. So now we have the American maybe strongest wing, the left wing. So we have McDougall firing first. He's 3 dice. Nothing. We have the 1st Massachusetts Brigade firing. There we have the first hit. So now we're going to decide where we're going to take the hit. I will for sure not take it on Heister, because then he's out of the game. Not good. So Losberg's brigade will take a hit. And we still have 1 Massachusetts brigade who can fire. And there's another hit. So this flank is taking heavy hits now. So let's see now. It's time for the attackers to fire. Remember, these guys will now roll 1 less die the first turn, because we are attacking a fortress, or a fortification, sorry. It's more of a big redoubt, perhaps. And let's start with Cornwallis. So he will roll 3 dice. No 6s and no 1s. So the militia is holding their line still. We have Stern, same thing. But remember now, also 2s makes a militia to break. And we got 1. No hits though. But this militia got enough. So they are now retreating back to the reserve and will not come back. On the center, the artillery will not have any reduced dice, so they will fire a 3. They also make militia run with a 1. Artillery hits with 5s as well, so the Massachusetts will take a hit. That's all on the center. Here, Heister will not have a die, and Losberg, who took many hits advancing towards the enemy lines, took a lot of hits. So he only has 1 die in his attack. And that's nothing. Okay, so here's the situation after the first battle round. Now, we got some nice hits over here on the from the American side. So we are for sure standing our ground here. The center could break pretty quick if the artillery would roll better. Here is a bad thing that the militia run away, because now we need to take hits on our artillery, and we have strong units attacking here, so that will be a risky thing. On the other hand, the British is also taking a big risk continuing the attack, because Losberg's brigade could be eliminated, and we will have 9 dice here, and 2 hits and Losberg is gone, and Heister is up by himself. So the British right could really break as well, and the Americans fire first, but the Americans need to first decide if they want to retreat or not. And I think they will not do that. I think they take the risk. I mean, these guys, 8 dice, let's see. We could expect taking 1 or, with a bad luck, 2 hits here, and that is of course costly, getting 2 hits on our artillery. But I think we might hurt these guys and maybe make... And I mean, if we empty one section, the other side breaks, and that can be very costly, because then you will roll for additional hits. You will also roll if you do a voluntary retreat, but it's not that severe as if you rout from a battle, or withdrawal is better than a rout, pretty much. So the Americans, they decide to gamble. They want, I mean, this is an important place to hold, so they're gonna hold it. So now it's the question for Heister. Does he have the guts to hold on for one more turn or not in the battle, or battle round? I would say it's not a turn. If I retreat, these guys will fire anyway, but only with 1 die each, and we could take hits wherever we want, so, but it could get costly. I wonder if it's only infantry that fires, so if it does artillery also fire? Infantry units. So artillery doesn't fire, not leaders, so they will get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 dice, not that guy. So 5 dice if we retreat, hitting with 6. We could get 1 more hit. I don't know. This is tough. This is so even. I mean, if we push our luck, I mean, both sides could win this battle, emptying one of the sections, making the other guy a rout, and this is an important thing. But Heister might retreat this time, just to wait to see how the big battle over at Brooklyn Heights goes, and decide after that if he would assault again. Maybe that's a good thing. I think I do that. So Heister decides to leave. I could roll for it to see if he would play, but maybe it's too much of a gambling so early. So I will not even roll for it. I will just retreat. This means we will roll 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 dice for the American to see if we get any hits while these guys retreat. So here's the 4 first dice, no hit, and then I'm gonna roll 1 more die since we have 5 units firing. No, so the British and the Germans got away without any additional hits here. And they go back to Bergen, while these guys now stays in Paulus Hook. But at least now we know, or these guys know, who these guys are and who's there, you know. By the way, I'm not sure I did explain how to win this game, did I? So there are 2 ways for the game to end instantly. The first is, if the British ever kills or captures Washington, George Washington, then the game ends immediately. I mean, and the second is, if the British ever has less than 20 strength points, I believe it was, then the game, at the start of a turn, then the game ends, because then they had taken too many losses to continue the campaign. They will just withdraw. If none of those two things happens, we play to turn 20, and then we check at the end of the game who won, and we do that by checking the extra victory conditions, you could say. So the British then need to hold New York City, and also make sure the British have 10 or less strength points, I believe. Let's see. Below 10. Okay, so 9 or less, you could say. So they need to really hold New York City and do a big blow on the Americans, fighting them too. So it's just a remnant left of their army. Then the British win. Otherwise, the Americans win. Yes. So that was pretty much turn 2. So we're gonna move on to turn 3, and I think I might even end the session here, and we come back next time with turn 3, and then I hope I can speed up the game a bit. Of course, we're probably gonna get a big battle next turn, so it will be a long turn, because that's a really big battle. So we're gonna see what happens there. But anyway, thank you for watching, and I hope you think this was an interesting one. We'll see how it goes, and see you next time. Bye for now.